reproductive rights are under assault in the United States. And what's worse, the rationale put forth by the Supreme Court to justify rolling back nearly 50 years of precedent, that there's no implicit right to privacy in the Constitution, lays the groundwork for a full court press on a host of other settled cases. Deep Listens is taking action, and we need your help. Of course, we want you to learn about the elected officials in your area and vote in every single election, but we'd like you to consider contributing to the national network of abortion funds as well. The NNAB is a clearinghouse of regional abortion and reproductive health organizations across the United States. Their goal is to remove financial and logistical barriers to abortion access, centering on those looking for assistance and organizing at the intersection of racial, economic, and reproductive justice. You can contribute to the NNAB directly at abortionfunds.org/donate. You can also use their site to locate an abortion fund in your area so you can keep your money local and aid your neighbors. Thank you, and now back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
Hello, good people, and welcome to Off the Deep End, a Deep Listens podcast where we cover role-playing games in depth. That's right, and this time we actually covered a role-playing game in depth. Well, I didn't, but we went down into the depths of the dungeon in this brand new video game, Etrian Odyssey 4. I'm your host, Jeff Rude, the Landsknecht of this party. Joining me, as always, is Chris Zombie Pie Redacted, the
yes.
Rune,
finish that sentence.
The Rune Sage.
Oh, that's not what I would have picked for me. I thought you were going to do
the Bushi.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be some sort of weird food-based thing. I guess we're running with this. We're running with this, right?
Yeah,
like this is the
that's
take.
Too late. We're good. Congratulations.
The Bushi of this operation, Chris Zombie Pie Redacted. Chris, how much TP do you lose every time you swing your sword?
I'm glad that we live in a timeline where the most consumer-friendly backwards compatibility program is embraced and supported by Microsoft.
It's very easy to hack your 3DS. And now, it's morally correct. Also joining me, as always, my delightful co-host, Braden Arbitrary Water Redacted, the dancer of the party, buffing us up with positive vibes.
Sorry, I was just drinking down a dirty soda over here. Just enjoying my time out here in the Mountain West, doing what we do.
I love fry sauce.
Yeah. Enjoying some Jell-O at a friend's wedding. Just good stuff. God damn it. That's. I hope you enjoy being the host of this show when I get hit by a truck at some point.
Oh, I'm Jeff Rude. I'm sad. Oh.
Yeah, it's okay.
I feel it's been a day.
It's all right. One day I'll be gone, the show will be better, and Braden will be coming up with fun names. It's funny because I burned the faux names at the beginning of the Goaty episode we did last week.
Yeah. I'm the Jeff Rude of this. Oh, I keep making allusions to how no one wants me, and I'm not needed. Oh,
it's gonna be sad. What is he, a sad boy? Is Jeff gonna cry?
He's a sad boy.
He is,
even though we love him.
But Jeff, we played a game that you keep talking about in passing. We played the game. We did the thing. I picked the game for you to be happy.
Yeah, honestly,
jump for joy.
It's been a pretty good thing to have. It's been fun to have a reason to use your 3DS after they killed it. They being one, Reggie Fils-Aimé literally came to your house and said, "Put that down! Put that down! That's not a console anymore! Put that fucker down!" Rip the heart out of
your chest, and you have a limited amount of time to put the heart back into your chest.
No, it's listen, you get an SD card reader, and you go to this website, and you got to know what firmware you have.
The DSi one is you basically use the camera app. There's an exploit that you wind up using.
Really?
Like you literally load like a kind of dummy file in the camera app that watches the illness that makes your DSi go places that God didn't intend it to go. No, I mean, my gods did, because my gods were pirates of a sort. Anyway, the 3DS home to a lot of games from a company called Atlas, who we've never covered and never mentioned before. Not once. Certainly not in the episode prior to the last one, where we covered a game from Atlas. This is an episode that's going to be about Etrian Odyssey 4, for those curious. We brought it up in the past, now we're bringing it up again. As I mentioned, it was developed by Atlas. It was released in 2012, July 5th to be precise, in Japan. Came out later in North America, PAL territories, physically, and it used to be available digitally on this thing called the eShop, which was this store you could go to on your 3DS, which was this console that used to exist before Nintendo made it go bye-bye. When they came into your house with a magic pixie wand and said, that doesn't exist anymore, you should just get a Switch. Despite the fact that several good games are now stuck on this thing, which kind of sucks. It's weird that this isn't one of the Etrian Odysseys that just made it over onto the Switch by default, I guess I'll lead off with, because it's kind of widely acknowledged as the best one.
I would say this is the best one. As an Etrian enthusiast, Jeff, I've played all of the games in this series. I've finished like half of them.
Like that, or I guess Nexus maybe as just like here's the big. Are you a real Etrian pervert? Like here's all of them, kind of. The gang's all here again.
It's the asset reuse surprise party game.
It's the Mass Effect 3 Citadel of the Etrian Odyssey universe.
The Monster Hunter Generations of the Etrian Odyssey franchise.
Even better comparison point.
Maybe let's talk a little bit about our relationship with the DS or the DSi or the 3DS. Like, back in the day, for those of you that are a little bit younger, there used to be these devices called handhelds. And it was like something that was sometimes a little bit bigger than your phone of today, but generally the same idea. But instead of being able to call and play little games and micro games and social link in your Facebooks and do your TikToks, it only could play video games. Now, these devices are basically extinct, even though it pains me to say that, and the DS was kind of like the last hurrah. I mean, if you want to delineate the different versions of the DS, there's the DS Fat, the original DS, which was an actual piece of shit. I fucking hated that thing. Then there was the DSi, which I think salvaged the whole technology of the dual screens and made it palatable. And then there was the 3DS, so with a couple of things here and there in between. And
I have a new 3DS XL.
I like the DSi, and I really like the 3DS.
I like the DS Lite.
I liked that DS Lite.
Which is better than the DSi because it could still play GBA games.
I didn't say that I did not like the DSi. I am saying DS Lite. I am just saying that the DSi and the DS Lite are like when the DS actually was a usable handheld, in my opinion.
Yeah. It was the hardware, even at the time people were making this comparison, it had a very Apple-esque feel to it compared to that original DS, which looked like a...
that's the one I had.
Like a Nerf device, basically. It worked, but it wasn't sexy.
I'm of the controversial opinion that the first time that the Game Boy Advance was usable was the fucking Game Boy Advance SP, because backlighting not on a handheld was
not
stupid.
A controversial opinion.
Yeah. I mean,
that is widely held.
Here's my thing with Nintendo handhelds, and kind of their consoles too, but I think the handhelds is where it's specifically goes, is I think Nintendo are Amish. Now let me explain what I mean by that. There's a principle in Amish craftsmanship, and I know this because I have family members who sell furniture that is built by people in like peace churches, so Mennonites and Amish folks, where if you make a bookshelf or just really anything, you need to add one little detail that's just off, just a little bit askance. It has to be like 90.3 degrees on your
Only
square.
God is perfect, Jeff.
That is precisely the point, because trying to aspire to perfection is actually blasphemous. Nintendo does this to a T with every one of their handhelds. You look at the original Game Boy. Wonderful thing. Terrible screen, though. Horrible, horrible, horrible screen. Okay? the Game Boy Color. It's the same thing, but it's color and has like the lack of a backlit screen on that thing.
It is a more powerful console.
Is like somehow even worse than the original one. That original Game Boy Advance, terrible screen. The Game Boy Advance SP is about as close as they ever got, with one major problem.
There's no audio jack.
No headphones.
And then they come out with a Game Boy Micro, which is missing the back compat stuff for your Game Boy and your Game Boy Color games. And is also, frankly, I used to own one, and it disappeared, and I'm really mad about it to this day. If for no other reason, then I could have just flipped that thing for like $200 at some point. The aftermarket value on those went totally nuts. And then you had the DS, which is kind of clunky and chunky. The DS Lite, which might actually be perfect. Like, it might be the sweetest spot they ever had, because it had that Game Boy back compatibility. If it had Game Boy and Game Boy Color backwards compatibility, it might just be perfect, like, full stop, like, pack it up. Because it was a DS, but felt better in the hand, I thought, personally. That's, I guess, a little subjective. Had Game Boy Advance support, had a headphone jack. It was basically a better Game Boy Advance than the Game Boy Advance you could go buy.
It also had a better backlight.
Had a better backlight, had a better battery life, if I recall. Like, it was awesome. It was like unbelievably good. I had a Game Boy Advance that my parents got me for Christmas, and I remember explaining, I'm going to go trade this in. And they were like, why would you get rid of that? It's a Christmas present. And I was like, I really like this thing. I'm just getting something that does all of this and then more. And I was like, felt shitty to explain, but I was like, this, like tried to make like a hardware explanation to my father. He'd be like, this is functionally a push, like this is an up move, and I'm still using the things you got me. Yeah, the DS Lite was awesome. And one of the reasons the DS Lite was awesome is it was a DS, which means it got Etrian Odyssey games, which came from Atlas. As you know, Atlas is a company that made a lot of role-playing games and continues to make them.
They also had a very active handheld mobile division that really liked making stuff for the original DS, because I think people forget this. They made a lot of money on Trauma Center.
Yeah.
They made a lot of money on Trauma Center.
So many fucking games for the DS. And then they remade half of those games for the 3DS with voice acting.
I mean, so the reality is everyone made a lot of games for the DS. Like, it is I think the second or third best-selling hardware platform ever after the PS2, which incidentally everyone also made a lot of games for that. Just from a, like, you know, sticky software sales perspective, like, there's like 154 million PlayStation 2s out there, and I think there are like 150 DS line things, not including the 3DS stuff. Like, even if you only get like 1% of those people, you are selling like 1.5 million copies of a game, which is pretty.
But even then, my point is that Atlas's handheld division was a very well-established team that had a very close relationship with Nintendo. Like, the development team for the Etrian Odyssey team was the Trauma Center team. It was led by Kazuya Nino, whose first game that he ever made was Trauma Center Under the Knife. Mm-hmm. And the character work, all of this stuff, it was the Trauma Center team. And they even had a couple of people from the Yidra Union team work on this game.
Huh. Yeah, so, the director on this one specifically I have is Daisuke Kanada, who worked on Trauma Center games. His most recent credit was on Persona 5 Strikers, but his first credit goes back to Devil Summoner Soul Hackers, which is
on the 3DS.
Yeah, that one's on the 3DS. And definitely holds up and has nothing wrong with it at all. And nothing that you would look at and go, oh, this was written in the 90s, not in the United States in it at all. No siree. It's got some real problematic shit. It's got some real bad depictions of queer characters. It's pretty bad.
What?
Yeah.
Atlas.
Weird. Yeah.
Atlas and problematic depictions of queer characters.
Yeah.
Next thing you're going to tell me is that there's like a weird problematic relationship where an adult is dating going on to a student.
No, I don't think it goes that far. But, I mean, this is one of the nice things about Etrian Odyssey, though, compared to the, not the Shin Megami Tensei slice per se, but the Persona slice specifically, is if you're like, yeah, but I just want the blobber part, like, I just want to play an RPG, Etrian Odyssey is just like, right, got you. Cool. Don't worry about it. Like, there's a story here if you want. It fits on a napkin, like, level up these guys and go into this dungeon and start drawing out a map. Like, you just go. If you want a game and you want to meet it on those terms instead of like, how are they gonna fuck up really basic like teenage like gay identity stuff, you check out Etrian Odyssey, because it's pretty much not there at all. Like, there's literally not oxygen for them to fuck up. And I do think that's maybe a better direction for them, because I think every time they try to tell one of the stories, they just fuck it up. Like every single time.
Every single time. I mean, you could argue, and I know that Relkin will chime in, but it's like the one time they didn't fuck it up was when the characters were adults, Persona 2. And it's like, yeah, why don't they just do that for now on? Because I'd rather they just depict bad adult relationships than continue to make these super awkward and off-putting attempts of adult trying to envision what teenage love or intimacy is. I just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And with this game instead, what you get is anime girls and anime guys doing anime girl and guy things while blobbing. Bloober, blobber.
I'm always blobbing.
Always be blobbing.
A-B-B. Always be blobbing.
Let's keep with our tradition, Jeff and Braden, of explaining what a game is.
Explaining what a video game is.
We've been doing a good job. We can't lose sight of this.
All right.
The
So,
audience
1957, Tennis for Two. It was developed over at Brookhaven National Labs, and it was what it was a demonstration that the lab folks wanted to do to kind of get people interested in technologies. So,
a young man named Ralph Baer invents a box.
Fairchild
Magnavox
Semiconductor
television.
Company had extra wafers that they wanted to use to compete
Nolan
in the
Bushnell
television.
was sitting in his hot tub.
So the
doing
author of
cocaine.
The War of the Worlds sat down and wrote a little title called Little Wars, and it was
The Game of
we made it.
The Yamauchi family started a playing card company in Kyoto.
So I feel like, Braden, you're the best equipped to explain what this game is, its mechanics, and how
All
it
right,
plays.
so we talked about this a little bit on our Megami Tensei episode. But Etrian Odyssey is a traditional ass dungeon crawler. It is first person. It is grid based. You draw out the map yourself. Later games would have some level of assist for this. If you use any of those assists, you're a coward. Draw them walls. Tell me where those teleporters are. Live your life. So I think it's fair to say that, a lot of Japanese-style dungeon crawlers draw heavily from Wizardry 5, specifically Wizardry 5 Heart of the Maelstrom, which is also kind of the last traditional Wizardry game, because Wizardry 6 and 7 and 8 are a little more ambitious, a little more grandiose. But Wizardry 5 was the last one that just said, here's a dungeon, it's got a bajillion floors, they're probably teleported mazes that'll fuck you up, and it had a SNES version that sold very well in Japan, produced by Capcom.
So,
and Etrian Odyssey is the realization of that idea. It is turn-based, class-based, party-based.
Blobber action.
Blobbin.
And again, for those that don't know, a blobber is a RPG in which you compose a party, and what you assign to each of those party members, or how you compose those party members, is the key gameplay conceit.
And you move around like a blob of people.
Yeah. You move around like a blob of people. This is first person, meaning you're first person dungeon crawling, which I know that I have a bit of a reputation of saying I don't like first person dungeon crawling, and I really don't, but it was great in this.
Except for all the ones we've played for this podcast.
Yeah, we've played some really dank ass first person dungeon crawling spelunking in for this podcast, but this is by far, and it's not even a competition, the best first person dungeon crawling we've done. There's something very nostalgic about this game. I think it's safe to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, this game feels old-fashioned, and that's kind of a breath of fresh air. I've been playing a lot of, I play bad old adventure games, but I've been playing a lot of like Game Pass stuff where it seems like the direction has been these high budget, high resolution, super flashy, wham bam, pajama sand, internet connected franchise sequel bait, online always. Follow our roadmap to see how we're adding new content. And this is the perfect example of what you see is what you get. And as limited as it is in its scope and what it is trying to do here, which is classic dungeon crawling combat with no apologies if you like or dislike that, man. It was like eating apple pie made by mom, right? Just something nostalgic about it. Sometimes a little cloying, but it felt good.
And that's because this is the fourth one. So yeah, the series got its start on the DS because someone said, hey, look, what if you use that bottom screen to draw a dungeon map? Like in the advanced Dungeons and Dragons. What if we got Yuzo Koshiro?
Yeah, we'll talk about the music later. I know that Jeff basically said this, but what this game doesn't have is actually kind of an asset because there's no like overwrought epic story about needing to like do something to avert the universe from exploding. There's no blue-haired princess who gets kidnapped and falls in love with some sort of traveler. There's no slipping in and out of space and time. There's no cutscenes. There's no voiceovers. The game really doesn't have that much of a cast even. It's just you creating your party and marching forward. And like Jeff said, considering that Atlas usually has higher storytelling aspirations with their games and anything that they touched, seeing them not do some sort of overwrought visual novel dating sim stuff or putting in more like really head up your own ass lore and world building.
No,
it actually works better for this game because you really can just appreciate this is a journey. This is just you going through this maze.
Only numbers go up.
And it feels good when the numbers go up.
It does.
You compile a party of 5 characters. Sometimes you will get guest characters. But for the most part, you have 5 characters in your party. There's a front and back row. There are, 9 classes total?
Yeah. Did you have any favorites, you two?
So when I played this game, I believe my party was Landsknecht, the Night Seeker, the Fortress, Medic, and Runecaster.
And then, as you joke, there are dancers, even though they're kind of useless.
No, support classes are always good in Etrian and Odyssey games.
I wanted to say that. You mentioned the Night Seekers. I really like the Night Seekers, and it made me realize that even though I am usually, when I play JRPGs, I avoid the classes that are status effect dependent, but this game does a very good job of making those support and status effect reliant or status effect or status effect impacting classes feel good and worthwhile. And I guess it's worth saying is that the class system allows for some hybridization from here to here. So you can have like a healer that's swording. You get some of those sorts of hybrids.
Yeah, you get multi-classing after the second dungeon.
And respecking in this game is quite good. Respecking is really good.
Yes, there are 3 additional classes that you get over the course of the story that kind of mix things up. You have the Arcanist, who is also status effect focused and can also heal, but not as effectively as the dedicated healer or status effect classes, but they have AoE shit. There's the Bushi, which is basically the Berserker, and the Imperial, which is the MMO rotation class.
Yeah, and if you don't like
yeah.
things, you can just visit that Guildmaster and re-roll. There's all of these slots that are just wide open for you to just store characters, which is a really great system in here. I guess the downstream impact is that because all of these characters are just meant to be vessels for you to experiment with character classes, there are no characters that are in your party that feel narratively worthwhile or significant. But yeah, I would say that this kind of has the same problem that a lot of job-based blobber games have, which is if you really invest in looking at the math, like there does come the point where you're just really fucking powerful. Like you get really powerful in this game.
And you need to.
Yeah, this is a series of games that is more than happy to kick your teeth in. And I think that's part of the joy of this series. I think it's just one more strength, honestly. Like, if you... I've used this language already, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but like, if you want to meet a game on these terms of just like, I just want a dungeon crawler, I don't need a plot, I don't need a story, and I don't need you to be nice, they have it in spades here. The like navigating the mazes, the dungeons themselves, these mazes.
Well, no, I think it is appropriate. I do feel like there's a difference between the mazes and the caves. I do.
Yeah.
Do feel like that you should delineate the difference between like.
And that's one of the best parts about this game.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that Etrian Odyssey 4, I guess, offered. So, this was the first game that this company... I don't know if this was the first game Atlas released on the 3DS, but it may as well have been. But it was certainly the first...
Code of Princess.
Oh, yeah, they did produce it. They didn't make that.
I think they published it.
They published. That's on the Switch, too. Anyway, this is the first 3DS Etrian Odyssey, and the whiz-bang feature that they offered is, for lack of a better word, an overworld.
And a casual mode.
Oh, yeah, there is one in here, isn't there?
For babies.
Yeah, I mean, hey, do what you want, like what you like. That's not really why I've come to the... Like, I'm on record saying I've played some games on easy on these podcasts, so, like, I got nothing to fucking prove there. But it just feels wrong in this case.
Considering that this is a game that's not offering anything narratively, like...
Yeah.
If you're not in it for the mechanics, like, what are we even doing? Like, play, like, Strange Journey, then, if you want to just, like, get something that's narrative out of a blobber game. Now, I know that we're going to be a little bit effusive with our praise, but I just want to say a couple of things that mechanically, as the person, this was my first, mechanically, that kind of annoyed the shit out of me in this game. So I know that in 5, they fixed a couple of these things. In fact, I looked it up. Attack and MAT are divided in 5, and that feels like the best way to do that. And they are on weapons. And I feel like the need to upgrade weapons for your spell users was very minimal, but probably the most annoying thing about this game, and I know that 5 fixed this problems, but summons not having their own 3-person row or person row, so you had to like kind of just jam them into your 6th slot, just drove me crazy.
That is something that Etrian Odyssey 5 very specifically addresses.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to say something that is, I hope, don't shoot me, Jeff.
Okay.
Yuzo Koshiro is clearly a legend. I don't think this game is his best work, and there are parts of this game's musical score that I think are a little rote.
I think
I kind of agree.
This is not the best Etrian soundtrack. I think I like the 2nd stratum a lot, and the 3rd stratum, and the 6th stratum's pretty good too. But I think on average,
you're the one who shared me the campaign music for Etrian Odyssey 2, and that just seems better. That seems so much better.
Yes, and then 5 has... I think 5 is probably the strongest of the 3DS games in terms of soundtrack.
I mean, the guy was like pushing late 50s when he started working on this game, right?
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to say Yuzo Koshira's over the hill. The man still makes good music. He still has his company. Have you played Ys?
But yeah.
Yeah, at a certain point you sound like the Dave Chappelle defending Prince or whatever. Just like, or no, it was his Michael Jackson defense. He's just like, the guy wrote Thriller. Like, whatever you're saying is like negated by this, which is not a line I agree with. But the guy did the Streets of Rage 2 soundtrack. He can do whatever he wants. Like, he's good. He gets to go to the Grey Havens.
Streets of Rage 3 isn't even his best work.
Streets of Rage 3 is not. It's pretty rough. Streets of Rage 2, however.
Oh, I thought a lot of people said that it's Streets of Rage 3. Anyways,
who are those people?
For me also, I know that I said there's this delineation between the caves and the mazes.
Yes.
The transitions from those like foresty sequences, like the lush woodlands, your first true, I guess, in quotation, maze, and then eventually the misty ravine.
Yeah.
And then the transition from those mazes to the caves, like you go from like that old forest mine to the woods, or I think there's like even the orchard. I feel like the transitions between the mazes and the caves are also sometimes awkward. But that's it. That's all I can say. Like the map overworld stuff, having these awkward transitions. I know that this was the first time where they tried it. I bet if I played
a little
5,
bit of that in 3, but yes.
I bet if I played 5, I would see that they figured it out. But I just feel like the transition from the world map to the overworld is awkward.
So yeah, this is the one in the series that has the overworld map that there's a little bit of a puzzle element to it, especially when it comes to like avoiding FOEs, which are the enemies who will fuck up your shit until you are a higher level. And so as a result, they are more willing to spread those dungeon levels because traditionally they're 5 stratum, so 25 floors, and then a 6th post-game thing. They're more willing to spread that stuff around.
Yeah, and I got obsessed with that map stuff. Just filling that map.
Yeah. The map clearing stuff is fun, and what that means for this game in particular is when you go into the smaller caves, which are usually like 1 or 2 floor mini dungeons, they can kind of goof around with gimmicks a little more instead of having to devote an entire floor of the dungeon to a specific like this mini dungeon has some real fucked up enemies in here, but you gotta use the icicles to melt the lava, to freeze the lava.
Yeah. But no, yeah, filling in the map is always a fun thing.
Yes.
How did you take in map? Yeah, ZP, what did you think of the map drawing tools in this game?
At first I thought they were incredibly fiddly. Like carefully plotting to make sure that every doorway and item spawn point are marked feels a lot like weird busy work, but also it kind of reminded me of like doing gambits in Final Fantasy 12. It's like, oh god, I really got to do this. I sometimes, there were times where honestly I was trying to play this game after a day of work and I wish there was just an autofill button where it's like, can I just opt out of this feature? Eventually I got better at it. I guess you could argue that when you stop and think about it, role-playing fans are like planners and plotters rather than pantsers. That's a literary reference if you got that. So like developing a plan and executing upon it feels like this game just being very honest with the core appeal of RPGs. I will say I was a little confused. I don't know. I mean, I'm coming into this game late. What happens when you click the QR? What happened back in the day when you clicked to generate QR code?
You could share maps.
Oh, really? Wow.
Via everyone's favorite 3DS feature, Street Pass.
Right.
It was maps, and also you could send your guild cards to other people, so they could know that you were good at drawing maps.
I had a handful of those on the old 3DS I have that is unfortunately no longer with me. And when I went back to this game to restart it, I was well past the point where street passes happened, even in like fucking Seattle on the public transit through here. Just totally dead. And I miss it. This wasn't the best Street Pass integration by a country mile, but every time you get them, you get a little dopamine. You get a little dopamine touch, and it's kind of nice. So, yeah.
Other than that, like, I would say that while I think this is a very good game, you can tell that this is the fourth game to this series, and so the on-ramping, let's say, is not the best.
Oh, don't worry. It's the same for all of them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's
all
just
of them start out with basically like, here's the first stratum. We're going to give you a little bit of help, but then immediately afterwards, we're going to kick you in the teeth.
Yeah, I would say that I got pretty much stuck until I eventually...
Will Smith punching an alien. They say, welcome to Earth. Not Earth, you
pretty
stupid.
Stuck in that first dungeon until I just banged my head on the mechanics. And it started to gel with me. Can I be very frank with you? When I saw that all of the enemies were spelled FOE, all caps, it's like, oh, are they doing the Final Fantasy thing where the acronym is just like Avalanche? It's like, no, field on enemies.
The big monsters that wander the labyrinths are, the FOEs.
Field on enemies. I feel like also that's another thing to say is like there's a lot of proper nouns that they don't properly scaffold, let's just say.
No, I need to know the lore behind the FOEs.
No, I'm not even saying that. I'm saying like some of like the tutorial for burst skills, for example, is poor.
It's not great.
It's a limit break.
But
but no, it's not well taught, and it's a core mechanic to this game.
Oh, my reading comprehension is bad.
No, it's not even that. It's like it's actually like not done well in this game.
Some
of these classes have distinct kind of like little bits to them, like little chibi bits to them, and none of that is explained very well.
Etrian Odyssey 4 is over here pulling out its brass knucks and getting ready to punch you in the face.
I don't know, Jeff. What do you think? Maybe you can look at it from a different lens. I just felt like certain parts, like the burst skills, not exactly well taught or scaffolded.
I mean, so my honest experience with this game was I played through, let's say, pretty much the entire first stratum like half a lifetime ago, like 2014, and then other things got in the way, such as the rest of my life. And I put it down, and then that 3DS disappeared, so this is a different 3DS. So I've started this over a while ago, like years ago as well, and made it a little bit farther than that through, like, I don't know, a chunk of the beginning of the second stratum, and then put it down again, and then came back to it, add another year or two there, and then probably put it down again. And I think this is like the fourth time I've like repicked this game up, basically. So what I recall about the burst tutorial is pretty limited, but I can tell you it's not like there's like a quick like, wait, what the fuck does this do? Thing you could pull up anywhere about that necessarily. The things you do with it are described, and you can piece together pretty quick, like, okay, like, so these are the abilities that have stapled into this burst limit break thing, which I guess we haven't really described this, but you can slot in different limit breaks for your party in there. And you acquire those through doing the quests in this game in part, which is another subsystem we should maybe mention. And they do different stuff. There's like a quick ripcord parachute escape from an encounter ability. There's a double your attack ability. Those are the two that I usually left on because I'm fairly simple and those seem like pretty easy math for me. As Chris had famously pointed out, I'm a pretty simple guy. So that was my main use for it. But yeah, you could definitely get kind of lost, and you need to sort of monkey around a little bit. Once you get to the point where you've like appreciate all of the knobs that are made available to you, again, this is one of the appeals of this game, is it gets like pretty down to the metal in terms of like how grognardy dungeon crawly you want to get. You can start looking at how different abilities and things synergize with each other, and that's when you start really playing Etrian Odyssey, is start chaining together like, okay, so I have a paladin they're not called a paladin. They're called a
Fortress.
The fortress. The fortress has abilities based on their shield that can trigger different elemental damage for like subsequent attacks from other people. You start getting abilities that you can combo off of like other people in line. It starts turning into a strategy thing. You start developing little stratagems and learning weaknesses, and suddenly you become this walking wall of death at a certain point. It's like in an earned curve. You can 100% do a Dragon Quest-esque approach to this game if you really want to, where the solution can just be grind more like forever. You can happily do that. But I think like it feels better in this game to go earn that shit than it does to just grind forever, as is usually the case. It feels particularly good when it starts coming together for you, though. When you piece out strategies, and I think it's just because the risk reward in here is so acute, right? Like,
yes.
Like the things in this dungeon that will absolutely work you over in 2 turns, just bury your ass. When you turn it on them, it feels beautiful. You feel like a god.
Yes. And there are also there are usually ways to cheese things. Like most bosses are not immune to all status effects.
Yep.
And some special material drop conditions require bosses to be under a status or have binds.
I feel like that's deliberate, considering there are so many job classes that are reliant on taking advantage of status effects. So to incentivize the player to feel like those status effect-oriented jobs are worthwhile, you might as well have a boss weak to everything until you have the bosses that aren't. One quick thing, and this came up when Jeff was talking about kind of how this game looks. I do think that this game is pretty in certain parts. Those low resolution wall textures, though, holy shit.
They're a little rough these days.
The one thing, though, that I think is graphically both annoying and it's just a curious omission is the fact that NPCs and missions are not graphically represented in the dungeons. And I don't know why you would do that. I don't know why you would do that.
I know why you would do that.
Why? So
you mark it on the map.
Yeah.
You dummy.
And that's another, like, weird like some of the stuff that you do in those maps is I think fairly like let's say empirical. Like a wall is a wall. There's kind of really one way to represent that, but there's the second set, so like there's, for lack of a better word, 2 tabs of things in this map making tool, and it's a set of iconography. So like you've got the ability to draw, just fill in squares with some of 4 colors, draw walls, and then there's 2 sets of icons. And that first set of icons is fairly like an open door or a closed door or a chest, like things that are pretty like, okay, I have an idea where I'd use this. And then you get into the second set that is a little more abstract. It's like a little green circle and a set of numbers 1 through 10. And you kind of start making your own iconography, basically, out of these. You need to develop your own legend. And it becomes a fun little game within a game of like, how am I going to indicate these things to myself in a way that probably makes total sense to you, and then you hand it to someone else and they're like, what the fuck, what why would you use this for that?
No, you need to do it in this order.
Yeah, it's definitely a game that it has a bunch of parts that individually don't sound all that interesting or fun, but when they're put together in this game that is basically a dungeon crawler, it does work. Out of curiosity, because I did not play this with a 3DS. How did this game do 3D?
Like,
what was the 3D?
Fine.
I want to see how the depths of those...
I'm wondering, like, what part of the game would be represented in the 3D part? Was it the top screen?
Yeah.
It's just the battles?
Yeah.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only part of the 3. It's only that top screen that had 3D.
It's the top screen, so yeah, it's the labyrinth and the battles.
I think people forget the fact that like this whole handheld had 3D, and then it didn't when they realized that was a bad idea.
Wait, do you have a 2DS?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not the best 3D implementation, but it's not the worst. Like, I tell you what, the 3D implementation in like Dragon Quest VII, for instance, it looks okay, but it makes that game run like dog shit in battles. And
well, wasn't that the common complaint of every 3DS game? Is that when you turned the 3D on, it made it run like garbage?
It depends. Yeah, like a lot of games would be fine. Some of them, like Dragon Quest VII specifically, it kind of chugs in battles anyways. It just, if you turn that on, you can see it like visibly run a little bit worse every single time consistently, even when it's not like doing much. This game didn't really have that problem. There's not a ton going on though during the battle screens either, so like it's a thing that you'll turn on and be like, oh, neat, and then you'll turn it off like pretty much every 3D implementation in like any of these games. I think the only games I ever left that on for any amount of time were like Super Mario 3D Land and maybe A Link Between Worlds, and that's not like 3D Land kind of needed it in some places.
Oh,
there are some spots in that game that definitely like benefit from depth of field.
Yeah, Link Between Worlds had a couple, but even at that point, which was 2 or 3 years into the thing, they were kind of like, all right, no one really likes this.
Oh, I mean, if we are gonna kind of start to take the teensy bit of story, even though talking about the mechanics is, Jeff, as a Norwegian,
yes.
So this game has Norse mythology in it because you're fighting Yggdrasil, and then there's Baldur,
every game,
and then there's
they
the
all have an
Heavenbringer.
Yggdrasil tree.
So
there's always a guy and a girl and a lighthouse.
And yeah, okay, so there's always a big tree. There's always a 25 floors of dungeon, and at some point you'll look at Yuji Himukai's art and be like, all these characters look underage. Yeah. And that's Etrian Odyssey. Listen, the man has his preferences. I understand why some people would find that to be a turnoff, but just don't use those portraits.
Yeah, like, I wouldn't go so far as to say that the art in this game is flat out objectionable.
It's definitely a little...
But it walks in the direction of it. And I can't speak to every single one of these games. I know they've reused some of the portraits in some of these games in other games, either just baked in or as additional downloadable content. But the short version is there are options. And if you don't want to, if you do not want to look at Loli, you do not have to. And yeah, maybe don't. Maybe don't. Maybe just don't. And maybe don't bring it up if you do.
No.
And, maybe there's
pick the portrait. That's the lady with the giant bazongers.
Yeah.
Or the at least one Etrian Odyssey game has, at least one of the classes has a portrait that's like an old dude.
Yeah. You can tell whatever story you want. The other thing is you don't really see those portraits all that often.
Well, I mean, like I said, the characters you might as well swap them in and out, or you're encouraged to swap them in and out depending on your circumstances or the environment you're dealing with. Another thing...
I don't live that life. I am one party forever.
Oh, I use my slots all the time.
I have one extra... I didn't roll with a rune master, but I have a 6th who's a rune master that I'd swap in occasionally.
The most I did was I retired my Landsknecht and replaced them with an Imperial near the end of the game, because Imperials are very good at burst damage.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like this at the time was considered like the best Etrian Odyssey, and there are even people who think that this is better. This is better than 5. Is what when I said I was playing this game on different Discords, they're like, "Yeah, 4's the best. I like it more than 1 and 3, and I still like certain parts of it more than 5." And it's like, okay, you're telling me these stuff, and I don't know if it actually means anything to me.
I can speak to it.
Okay,
I can speak to it though. So the thing about the first 3 games is, the first 3 games are a little more overt with how much they just want to kick you while you're down. Like the number of levels you lose to respec is pretty significant. A lot of the quality of life stuff in this game isn't in some of the earlier ones. And it's basically like, hey, if you don't have an Ariadne thread, you're fucked.
Yeah. Which is the get out of jail free.
Yeah, the escape the dungeon skill.
Yeah, you. If you do not have one of those on you,
and then I think The other thing about 4 that I think is kind of makes it the breakout one for me, I think 3 is also quite good. Those first 2 games, like the class and skills are very straightforward. They are very like, this is the healer class. All of their skills are healing. This is the fight class. All they do is fight. And then in the third game, they got a little more unconventional. They added multi-classing, and so you could get a little more interesting with your party comps.
Okay.
And this game goes even further with that.
So, question.
Yes.
This franchise lives and dies on the DS, 3DS.
They're doing that HD.
They're doing the remaster,
release.
but
Yeah.
also this is a really messy franchise because they did 5 and then they did that Nexus game that a lot of people didn't like.
I like Nexus.
And then they did the remake games, the Etrian Odyssey Untold games, or
Nope.
Those are not Etrian Odyssey.
They did 4. They did Untold 1 and 2, and then they did 5 and Nexus.
No, but Untold 1 is just 1 but remastered, right?
Yeah.
Kinda. It has a story mode.
And then they had Spike Chunsoft do 2 mystery dungeon games, and then the mystery dungeon games inspired them to do. Then the mystery dungeon games inspired them to make Persona Q.
No.
And then Persona Q is Etrian Odyssey meets Persona, right?
Nope. Well, Persona Q is basically an Etrian Odyssey game with SMT mechanics.
But it's not an Etrian Odyssey game.
It is an Etrian Odyssey game.
It is an Etrian Odyssey game?
It is an Etrian Odyssey game with Shin Megami Tensei battles.
They don't use the words Etrian and or Odyssey in those games at any point. But like, make no mistake, they play the only like clear, very hard differentiation is I think those games have auto mappers in them. By default,
looking this up. Yes, Braden, they did make 2 Etrian Odyssey Mystery Dungeon.
Okay, did the second one not come out over here?
I am looking this up right now. It seems that this was Japan only.
Okay,
Weird.
That's why I didn't hear of it. I don't like Mystery Dungeon very much.
Yeah, not a Tornico guy, huh?
No, the only Mystery Dungeon game you'd catch me playing in the dead of night is the one where the tits get bigger.
I played a Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game, and I thought I had an okay time.
The one time I streamed that game, Jeff, people made fun of me for it for a very long time.
What game are you talking about?
Omega Labyrinth.
I might do it for a grab bag episode at some point. Don't worry.
I mean, I do watch Twitch a lot. That's not a knock on you. That's a knock on.
Oh, hey, my mobile phone can play that remaster of Shiren the Wanderer, Tower of Fortune, and the Dice of Fate. Jeff, what should I do about that?
Go buy a Vita for $7,000 and then buy a copy of that game physically for the Vita for $9,000.
I think these games are very good. I think in a lot of ways they are the gold standard for the Japanese style of blobber.
It also feels like a game that is a quintessential handheld experience. Like that is the thing, that reason why I kind of spent the first part of this podcast talking about like what is handheld gaming. Like, I'm glad that they're remastering these to kind of work on PCs. I think that these are great Switch titles, but man, remember handheld?
Yeah.
I know that the Playdate is coming out, and there are even people who always get in my mentions when I say I don't consider the Steam Deck a handheld. It's a portable computer. But man, remember handhelds, man. This game is a handheld game.
Remember being a child.
Well, it's not only that, but it's like this game was designed for a handheld.
Designed
these
to
games
play on the Shin content.
Yeah, they were supposed to. Handheld games were designed to be handheld games. I think this is the part of the reason why I never really got super into the PSP or the Vita in particular. It's like these are just handheldized console games, and they're not actually taking advantage of like what portable gaming is meant to be. And this felt like a portable, bite-sized experience that I could just boot up whenever I felt comfortable. And I know, Jeff, you were talking about picking up and putting it down, picking up and putting it down. To me, I feel like that was like the doyen, like the gold standard for portable gaming is come to it when you feel comfortable, when you have the time, when you just need to get your mind clear and just vibe. This is a vibe game.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the thing about picking this game, and kind of any of the games in this series, picking them up and putting them down, maybe not the best way to experience them in some sense, I will grant you. But on the other hand, it barely fucking matters, because, like, will I be slightly mechanically confused for about 10 minutes or so as I shake the dust off?
As you skim through your characters, what your character's skills are?
Yeah, 100%. But also, you kind of just been like, okay, well, this map is half done.
That's why you drew the map.
Yeah, it's like, if you've done this correctly, you can just pick this up and keep going. It actually works out pretty well. I agree with you 100%, Chris. It's like the strength of the platform. And it's a thing that is weird about the versions of this that are now out on, I guess, the Switch and Steam, is I'm glad those games are back in circulation. It's Etrian Odysseys 1 through 3, so not this one, but, you know, maybe if you really want to have a look at this series on a platform that you can still go buy these games, 3 might be the one to go get. For $40, that's kind of steep, but it's pretty good. But the map drawing is kind of a dicey proposition. If you're playing this on a PC, you've at least got a mouse that you can draw stuff with. On the Switch, if you're playing portable,
use their terrible touchpad.
You can use their terrible touchpad and like your finger and a stylus, but like it's gonna be very hard to get the precision.
How did you feel about the map stuff in Breath of the Wild? Like drawing the stuff on the map. You didn't like that?
How much stuff were you drawing on the map in Breath of the Wild?
I mean, you did like the fast travel stuff where you're kind of like doodling on it like a stylus.
What?
Oh, I thought there was the map stuff that you could just like.
I want
to teleport.
About Phantom Hourglass?
Oh fuck! I'm thinking of Phantom Hourglass.
Yeah. My answer to that is I didn't really like Phantom Hourglass. I didn't like it so much that I had Spirit Tracks for like a while and tried playing it like 3 times. And after the 3rd time I bounced off it, it was just like, you know, I could just not like a Zelda game. Like, I'm under no obligation to finish this.
Please look forward to my playthrough of Skyward Sword.
I'm glad that
I played Skyward Sword.
I'm glad that they're making those games. I don't know how you adapt certain parts of the Etrian Odyssey gameplay for a PC. I would agree with that, but I'm just glad that someone at Atlas is like, hey, maybe we need to bring this back.
Yes.
Maybe we need to do this. It's just, Atlas, if you're listening, bring Strange Journey. Bring Strange Journey to Switch, please.
Atlas,
God, please.
Atlas,
Strange Journey.
Look at
just
Steam.
Do that in Trauma Center.
Do you see how many
Trauma Center games,
dungeon
please.
crawlers there are with anime girls what got titties on them? Etrian Odyssey is better than 99% of those.
I mean, I guess you could say they did that Strange Journey Redux game, but like
for the 3DS, a dead console.
But also, like, yeah, bring fucking Strange Journey to PC, please.
Never.
Jeff, join my petition.
Atlas
sign my
says,
petition,
why would
please.
you ever want that?
Because that game is good.
These re-release. No, Atlas says these re-releases of Persona 3, 4 did so well on PC. What should we do?
Do you want to know the one thing that I remember about Atlas before they got real big with Persona and they became like this household name? I remember it's like, well, shit, a new Trauma Center or a new DS game came out. I guess I got to buy it because I know that they only do a limited printing. And when that shit sells out, I can't fucking find it anywhere.
They did those reprints of the Devil Summoner games in like 2012 when I was in grad school. There was like a last run of those on Amazon and they were like $20 a piece.
Yes.
And I almost bought them just basically taking a flyer on them because I already knew even at that point, I was just kind of getting into Atlas shit at that point, that if I don't do this now, they're never ever going to be around again. And those games are worth about $225 a pop now.
That's how I got my copy of Nocturne.
Yeah. Yep, that is. I'm looking at my copy of Nocturne. I have that, and then my PS4 remaster of Nocturne.
Ironically, Nocturne, the only one they actually did an HD re-release of.
Yeah, and they released it on PC too.
And you got to pay extra for Dante.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I mean, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Pay extra for Dante.
I'm looking at. Oh, this is weird. This Etrian Odyssey 3, is this not out yet? No, okay.
No,
they are not
June.
out yet.
It's coming out in June of this year.
I thought the Switch ones were. Oh, really not. Okay. I can't see how that is not a pretty good experience on PC. I don't think they like the thing I'm gonna miss is like the enemy sprites kind of like doing shit. Like there's a little bit of redrawing in these remasters of some of the sprites, and I don't think I think they're fine in the sense that this is ultimately just a game where I want to do math against cool drawings, and like these will do, but there's something about, I guess, the kind of charming, low detail 3D polygon enemies in 4 that are kind of like animating and twitching around.
Right.
That I will miss, I think.
Also, I will say, looking at some of the trailers that they've shown, is clearly they are going to finally deal with the audio compression problems for 1 through 3 and 4, because oh boy, some of the sound effects in this game. Oh boy, I don't know what they did with the equalization curve with some of these sound effects, but they sound tinny and brash, and the high frequency stuff. The high frequency sound effects in this game are so overpronounced that the 3DS, and I'm on a 2DS, speakers are better than the GBA.
They put Metal Gear on that thing.
But not much. Much.
Wear headphones.
Yeah, this is a headphone game.
Even then, I felt like that the sound effects in this game are very shrill.
Yeah,
and I'm glad that they're fixing that.
I think it's a lot of just compression too, just to get things small. That's just, I think, of the 5 largest games by storage size that were ever released on the 3DS, 2 of them were Persona Q and Persona Q2, and I think some of that might have just been because like we put a lot of shit in here, and these are late games, so why not? But I kind of wonder if there's a little less gnarly compression on the audio in those games. Can't vouch for it.
There's a lot of voice acting in those games.
Okay, so it's probably just really compressed voice.
Yeah, and this game not having voice acting is just another reminder of, if you come into these games wanting a story and the stuff that we talked about for like map making doesn't sound appealing to you.
All of the ones after this have
there's nothing here. There's nothing here for you.
Oh man. Okay, I'm looking at the trailer for Etrian Odyssey 3 right now on Steam, and all of the UI tooltips, this is just the Switch. Like, it's just showing like that horrible Switch keyboard pop up for like text entry. I'm not gonna lie, that's making me a little bit hesitant to put the PC ports of this.
We'll see when
it's okay. It's okay, Jeff. If they release something questionable on the PC and it came from a JRPG studio, we'll do what we always do: rely on the mod community to salvage it.
Yeah,
Durante will fix it. That's a joke. Durante actually makes Japanese PC ports now.
Didn't know
he
that.
worked on most of the recent Trails games for PC. Shadow.
It's time to rank this. I think we've... Is there anything else that anyone wants to say about Etrian Odyssey 4 besides, it's
game good?
Yeah,
game good.
I
like the dungeon crawlers. I'm glad to have shared the gospel of Etrian Odyssey with you. In a lot of ways, I think these are the best Japanese-style dungeon crawlers out there. I've played a couple other kinds, and they are of varying quality. Some of them are quite good, some of them are not.
What if we played one of those Ichi porno wizardry games?
Some of the weird big titty dungeon crawlers are not bad.
Why don't we play Conception 2?
Yeah, let's play Conception.
Conception 2 is what if Persona, but skeevier and lazier.
Not the impression I'd get based on the name. Okay, it's getting ranked then as bit.ly.
Time to rank.
bit.ly/OTDE rank. You can see the actual list of things we've ranked. It's the first time I've opened this in a while. So just refreshing. Look at all the horrible things we've done. Look at all the bad things we do. I'll rattle off for those who aren't looking at this at home. The bottom 5. Let's go down the list. So, let's see. So this would be 33 through 37. Working down, we've got Dungeons and Dragons Forgotten Realms Pool of Radiance 2 Runes of Mithranor version 1.4, followed by, I'm never changing that, Virtual Highlight, followed by Secret of the Stars, followed by Aiden Chronicles The First Mage, which might be pronounced Aiden Chronicles, I heard someone say in a video kind of recently. It screwed me up.
They don't know any better than us.
Yeah, you know, the email person who mentioned this to us should just let us know. Followed by Unlimited Saga, which is, I'm gonna say, might just want to glue that one down there.
Look, if we got into the world of mobile games, Jeff, we can get darker.
I know we can get darker, but
if you eat raw sewage, eventually you'll find something worse than insert joke about mainstream fast food here.
Top 5, Jeff.
The top 5, working up the list. Number 5, we have Quest for Glory 1, So You Want to Be a Hero. Above that is Grandia 2, which is good. Above that is Xenosaga Episode 1, Der Wille ist Mocked, which is also good. Above that is Sweet Coden, which is pretty darn good. Above that, at the top of the list, the best RPG is Might and Magic 6, The Mandate of Heaven.
Yeah!
Our Valdis story. No, it's not. It's actually good. Look, it's not a popular choice, but it's the choice we all agree on here in this house.
So, Jeff, is this game better than Hybrid Heaven?
No.
Like, what?
No. I think this is probably down in like the East 3. Yes, it's better than yes. Come on, you dummy. This is quite good. I think this belongs in the top 10 because I would put this above Eternal Sonata.
Okay. I think it's better than Fire Emblem 1.
I think I agree. I would see this go above Arcanum of Steamworks and Magic Obscura.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's better than Ogre Battle.
Yeah. I think it is better than Quest for Glory 1.
It's not. That's not the best Quest for Glory game. So actually, I'm realizing I just bumped myself off the top 5. So I better. I'm not gaining ground here. Okay.
Yeah, when you get into the top 5, now you get some actual fights here. So you got Grandia 2.
So it's like the inverse in terms of the difficulty curve. One is too easy, one is too hard.
Yeah, man, that game is piss easy and has maybe the things that are strong about that game are kind of the story, right?
Right.
This is a weird top 5 because it's like Xenosaga and Grandia 2 make it here on the strengths of the plot. Suikoden makes it appear just by being like a really great all-rounder. And then Might and Magic 6 is like but if you like mechanical RPGs.
So I'll say this. I think that this game is better than Grandia 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but yeah. Like, I think that's me saying I really liked Grandia 2.
I really like Grandia 2. Grandia 2 is scrappy. We love it. It's got that big Dreamcast energy.
It has that boss fight music with the fake deep purple.
It's got the
guy.
JPEG. It's got the JPEG though.
It's got that JPEG.
It's got that JPEG, but also you win most of the fights in that game by using Burn Flame.
All right, I feel okay putting this above Grandia 2, but not by a lot. Now
but
I think
Xenosaga.
So I enjoyed playing this game more than Xenosaga.
But did you enjoy experiencing it more?
That's up for debate.
The London Philharmonic is no Yuzo Koshiro, but when that lady opens up her womb laser and sucks in all of the trans-dimensional space whales.
The thing about Xenosaga Episode 1 specifically is, like, I feel like at some point, like, Destiny is going to make us play that second game, and I don't think it gets away with it a second time.
No.
Right? Like,
No.
It can't do this. Like, if the game is as rote as that game becomes after a certain point again, like, I know it's, like, half as long, basically, but
what I've heard about Xenosaga 2 and 3, seems like we're in for a ride.
Yeah, like, it is half as long on half the budget. That sounds kind of like a disaster, but that first game is such a pure, clear, hubristic, ridiculous, excessive thing.
Fever dream.
Yeah, like that lady just tells that dude to have sex with his VR machine, and then he does a genocide.
I hear you, Jeff.
His fucking he has like 4 different trials where they keep turning him into like less and less of a legal human being in like one cutscene.
And somehow he becomes like an admiral.
God,
you both of you are correct. 100%, both of you are correct. But at the same time, this game was a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, remember when we had to use the weird eggs in Xenosaga? Remember when we had the weird first dungeon in the fucking, what was it? The weird space whale thing?
That's not the first dungeon, but it may
That's
as well
the second.
Be. Yeah,
the UTIC battleship. Remember the UTIC battleship?
Remember the beach scene where you get to go to the beach and have an anime
and you
beach
see her
sequence?
Fucking camel toe right up in your fucking face. Remember the part where you see an image of her naked because you go to cyberspace?
Remember when you go to the brain matrix?
Oh yeah,
see
remember the Matrix?
Crimes happening?
Remember the card game?
Yeah, the card game.
That card game is so bad.
It's so bad.
It's so unnecessary too. It's like complaining about like I have like a hangnail or something, but like it's a vestigial, pointless part of the game that you don't need to engage with. But it is a card game
because it's a JRPG. Final Fantasy is a card game, so we need a card game.
Yeah, it's the most keep it up with the Joneses ass thing in there, but it sucks. It's really bad. I think maybe this goes above Xenosaga Episode 1. I could see it.
I will accept that.
Okay.
Under protest.
But I don't think just based on that, I don't think it goes much higher, right?
I don't think this. Suikoden.
Okay. I think that this game might be. Here's what I would say as a compromise. I think that this is better than Suikoden because when Suikoden and this game actually have a lot in common, right? They're both games that we praise for their mechanics. I think I like playing this game more than Suikoden because Suikoden 1 is not Suikoden 2. I will tell you right now. When we get to Suikoden 2... We
haven't played Suikoden 2.
When we play Suikoden 2, I am bringing a fucking gun to get that game near to the top.
It'll probably be there.
Yeah. You know, I'm thinking about this more. I don't think I want to put this above Xenosaga.
Okay. I'm all ears. I'm okay with that.
I'm fine with that.
Just like there's so much ridiculous like just the YouTube version of the cutscenes of that game alone.
It's 4 hours.
Remember when they find all of the monoliths and all of the monoliths are named after the 12 apostles of Jesus?
Remember when what is it, Junior? We go to his man. Yeah. We go to his spaceship and he has a bunch of mutants in the basement of his spaceship and that is never resolved at any point in the story.
No.
Remember when What's-His-Bucket tears his head off?
Yeah.
And tortures Momo?
When Albedo literally just rips his own head off? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good game. I think my only criticism in terms of that game's story, the ending, kind of an anticlimax that it's not crazier. It's a very coherent, straightforward, Cosmos sacrificed herself because she's Jesus. And it's like
She's not Jesus.
I know.
We'll get there.
I know, but also the metaphor. But also
we'll get there.
But also like the ending of that game is very normal. It should be crazier. It's Xenosaga. Okay, I'm cool with putting this below Xenosaga.
Okay. That's where it's going to go then. It is the new number 4 on this list. It sits below Xenosaga Episode 1, Der Will Zermacht.
Play it, or you can't play it anymore unless you buy a physical copy. Which
it's very easy to hack a 3DS.
Yeah, just incidentally.
How much are 3DS games going on eBay? Is it like retro gaming prices?
It depends on what you're looking for. Like the thing is, they're going to be overinflated right now because the thing just died. So you add that tax plus the Atlas tax. And it's an older title.
Never mind that this game was $5.
I feel like I asked this question when I first picked this game, and it was like $40 to $50, and now everything's at $70. So the death of the marketplace has definitely led to at least a $7 to $10 jump.
It's okay. I still got this copy of Star Fox Zero next to me.
Oh, because you like bad games.
Because that's never getting a Switch re-release.
I wound up picking up Codename Steam on Amazon for I think $3.
Okay, Jeff, have you played Valkyria Chronicles?
I know what Codename Steam is.
Okay.
I don't need to be dissuaded from this.
What if that but dog shit?
I can't get a small drip coffee where I work for $3 anymore, basically. So, like,
oh, still elites.
Yeah, really.
Thanks, Biden.
Yep, that's at a university with a bunch of really poor teens there. Still, it's fucking ridiculous. Anyway, yay! Hey, congratulations, Etrian Odyssey, for we successfully navigated this labyrinth together, didn't we, guys? Huh?
That's right. We drew the map. We avoided the FOEs using a convoluted series of secret hidden walls.
We've Ariadna threaded together some arguments.
Yeah.
To bring it. This is horrible. Okay.
I bound the head of my foes in order to harvest better parts from their corpse.
Oh, and by the way, this game takes place in the post-apocalypse. We forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
You like the apocalypse? Atlas does.
Me mentioning it as a one-off thing at the end of this podcast is about care and attention the game actually gives in-game for it.
Yeah, you get a little bit of it in the post-game dungeon that neither of you did.
Correct, I didn't.
I did it. Not. You fight an evil bug.
It sounds wonderful. Let's go to the slush pile.
Wow, Jeff. What time is it now? Is it time to pick a delightful game from one of our fans who gave us money on the Patreon? By the way, did you know if you support Deep Listens on Patreon and give us a minimum of $3, you can add a game to the Deep Listens Off the Deep End, a Deep Listens podcast slush pile?
I've got an idea. This was mentioned last time. We mentioned that if people who are already fans or subscribe to the Deep Listens, if they chip in, I think, Jeff, you said, like, if you go from $1 to $3, you get to give us a suggestion. Here's something that I've been playing around. Now, if you increase your submission, if you increase your monthly payment from, let's say, $1 to $3, feel free to use your extra chip in to invite someone, talk to Gino about this, invite someone over into the Discord. We want more people to join this close-knit community. We want more people to know about the podcast. We want more people to be a part of this network. So if you know of someone who's nice, kind, not a nightmare person, let's just say, and you, let's say, go from like $2 to $5, talk to Gino. Say, hey, I want to gift my extra money to a person so as that they are technically a subscriber. Give Deep Listens as a gift.
Give Deep Listens to your father, as long as your father likes a bunch of chuckle fucks.
If I was able to get my mom into Discord and she could talk about anime on the Discord, I think people would be okay with that. But she doesn't like technology, so that's never going to happen.
So she's not into RPGs.
She's into One Piece, though.
It's okay. She likes One Piece. She likes Master Commander.
Is there a One Piece RPG?
There are numerous.
There are multiple.
There is a One Piece RPG for, I believe, the GBA.
Oh, it's a super late one. Wait, I think that's... Yeah, okay. I know what you're talking about, because I think there's a Thantran for one of those. Yes. Anyway, okay. Also, we ain't playing...
Pick the game.
Look, I, at some point, suggested that we play that Dragon Ball Kakarot game for this show, and was told that is not a thing we should do. So, anime games, I've decided, are out.
I would do that, Jeff. Whatever. Let's... Pick the game.
We are going down the list.
Dice.
We have a bunch of nominated things here from various members of this community. I'd like to say thank you. This is our way of saying thank you. Is pulling from this pile. And random.org has dictated that we are going to do number 6 on here, which is Fantastopotamus. Fanta. Just the first phoneme on this long name. Fantastopotamus, who has just written any Piranha Bytes game.
Oh. Well, gentlemen, we've talked about what we want to do if this one were to get selected.
That's right.
So we agreed that we would all play a different Piranha Bytes game.
Yeah, you gave us vague instructions.
They made
We'll
3
loosely follow them.
Gothics, they made 3 Risen games, and they have made 2 Elex games. They all star a vaguely Germanic white dude with a shaved head with no name.
Go on.
He has to join a series of different factions who are all at war with each other and also vaguely tied into different aspects of the skill system. You will spend the first few hours of these games getting murdered by emaciated wildlife and local children. But eventually, if you correctly use your skills, and I mean all of your skills, you too will be able to kill one boar at a time.
So I don't mean I'm not trying to shame you, but Braden, you have probably the most experience with Piranha Bytes of all of us.
I am of German heritage, yes.
But you've played some of their games. What is your advice of like, don't play that one, play this one?
So
definitely
I would say
should not play.
Don't play Gothic 3.
Okay.
That's
I've got Gothic 3.
The bad
I think I
one.
bought Gothic 3 after I saw you play it and was like, I want that.
I played it and it seems fine. So Gothic 1 and 2 are considered like genuine classics by crazy people. And there's definitely a little bit of law of diminishing returns after those and after Risen 1.
Okay.
But on the other hand, Elex 2 has a Billy Idol concert in it.
Yeah, you see, I want to look at that real bad, even if I have to pay $40 for it. Because are you a cyber German man?
Yes.
Are you?
You're a cyber German named Jax.
Do I fight cyber emaciated were dogs and stuff?
Basically.
Fuck yes. This sounds
So-
awesome.
He has a jetpack.
I've seen Braden play Elex, so I'm glad that Jeff is picking this. I've played Gothic 2 because I remember when everyone in the PC community was really into Gothic 2. I've never played Risen. So
Risen is the one that had budget behind it.
Okay, so
Like,
is
they
that
got
Risen
like
1?
That's the first Risen.
Okay.
The first Risen
Then-
has like Lena Headey in it.
Okay. Then Risen 2 has pirates.
Risen 2
And
has pirates.
And is Risen 3 the one that's a nightmare game?
I have no idea.
I own Risen 3. I can play Risen 3.
You can play Risen 3, you can play Risen 2, you can play Risen.
I might play Risen 1 because the whole idea of a Piranha Bytes game,
It's
having a
Gothic on
budget.
an island.
but also I kind of want to check out Risen 3. So I might actually play Risen 1 and 3.
Okay, I am going to goof around with the original Gothic.
Ooh.
Maybe Gothic 2 with the both of those games have unsurprisingly a very extensive fan community and fan patches that make them run good in high resolution on modern computer.
All right.
Do you mean to suggest that these games are maybe technically rough on the edges?
I'm saying that you haven't Eurojanked
Until I've really Eurojanked?
until you've really How much Eurojank have we played? None?
None.
That's
So-
about to change. The hierarchy of power in the DC universe, in the Deep Listens universe, is about to change.
The center of the universe is shifting over to the Greenwich Meridian.
Mid-budget European RPGs.
I'm
I mean,
excited.
I'm excited. I'm kind of surprised that we ended up playing a Piranha Bytes game before we played Spiders, but you know, take whatever
Look forward
Eurojank
to
you
our
can get.
Solstice episode when
Yeah.
I make you two chucklefucks play Bound by Flame.
Oh, I thought you were going to say of Orcs and Men. Okay, cool. Or Technomancer.
Technomancer is just really boring.
It looks boring.
It's very bad.
You
But-
could make us play Mars Warlogs.
I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
It's got a thumbs up on Steam.
That game is
Does it?
like genuinely wretched.
All right. We're cutting this one off. We're tying this sausage off, and then we're throwing it into the smoker right now. Okay.
Yeah.
We ain't talking about the evil that was just invoked here. That's the end of this episode of Off the Deep End. We're ending this. Thanks for tuning in. As we've not mentioned, because someone else decided to pretend to be me at the start of the show, just a certain just a certain knucklefuck. We have an email address which we get email to all the time because you guys keep sending it, but you can keep doing that. It happens to be inquiries@deep.lol. You can send your questions and or comments and or prayer concerns to that address.
Tell us we're wrong.
Yeah, but really about anything. You're
Tell us
probably
we're right.
You could do that, but don't lie.
Flatter
That's
my
a sin.
ego.
You can also talk to us on Discord. How do you do that? You get to the Discord by engaging with the Patreon. You go to patreon.com/deeplistens. Any dollar amount that is denominated in United States dollars gets you access to that Discord. You kick in $3 on there. You can add a game to the RPG slush pile, which we do draw from. We will, and we thank you for doing that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to SuperSex420 if you're out there having super sex on 420. Sorry we missed you on the sacred day recently. Shout outs to him for composing the song called Halfway, which is the intro music and outro music that you're probably hear right now. This is another great tracks by SuperSex420. Available, bandcamp.com. Just search for SuperSex420. See you next time, and remember, there's no such thing as cheating in Etrian Odyssey 4, especially considering you have to pirate it anyway. May as well get a cracked version. Bye-bye. This episode of Off the Deep End was recorded and edited on the traditional and ancestral territory of the Nisqually or Nisqually people, who have lived on and stewarded these lands and waters since times immemorial.